Hi, I'm Suki.
And I'm Claire.
Welcome to Getting Psychic, where you can listen to us use ourselves to test the theory that anyone can get psychic.
Hi, Suki.
Hello, Claire.
I want
How
a
art thou?
microphone that I don't have to put in my mouth.
I know.
I want a Madonna from the Blonde Ambition tour microphone, where it's the headphones with the microphone. Can't we
Why can't we have that?
I don't know. I mean, why can't we?
I don't know. It's probably because the sound quality of a tiny little mic.
Not possible.
Isn't great
How
for-
could it be bad? Madonna uses it.
That was actually just bouncing around in my head, too. I don't know. I really don't know.
I think we should try it.
Okay, well, we'll ask Bernard, our point of contact.
It's not Bernard, man. It's Ruben. His name's Ruben.
I can't. Those names are
Sandwich. Delicious sandwich.
Okay, yeah. Those are completely interchangeable in my head. But yeah, it is weird. You would think. And also, wouldn't that seem to be like the perfect travel option? There's got to be a reason why people don't podcast with those.
I think that they look not cool.
Impossible. Well, psychics, what we're talking about is like the quality of sound that we have to finagle a lot of adjusting and dialing and tweaking so that Claire's voice and my voice end up on the same level. So we're trying to figure out why that is. And I'm trying to say Claire needs to have the mic basically in her mouth at all times. And she doesn't like it.
I'm going to make no comments.
What's going on with Getting Psychic?
I'm sure
that's an enjoyable sound for the audience. No. You're fired. What did you like?
I like that you tested me the other day on my capabilities.
Well, it wasn't a test. I really just wanted some advice.
No, I know, but I mean, like, it was also
fun.
It was. I mean, mostly because I was pretty close.
Yeah, you were pretty close.
Yeah,
but it's also like, okay, here's something that repeatedly comes up that's really funny because it's like, oh yeah, we're doing all of us and all the psychics are doing all this work to finally make contact with our guides and get messages with clarity and understanding. And then there's the fact that they're not always right.
No, totally.
So what the fuck? I don't even ask my friends for advice. Why am I bothering to go inside my head and ask these strangers for advice? Let's talk on my firm.
They definitely know more than your friends.
They have a slightly higher perspective. No, and that's false. I do ask my friends for advice. That was just for dramatic effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, my friend.
So, do you think that the Barbie movie is elevating the...
I actually, Claire, I want to stay on the topic that we were just on. We can go back.
I was going to say, I wonder if it is elevating the vibration because it is making so many women feel so incredibly empowered and remember how empowered they should always feel.
I took the kids to see it, and now they just both talk about the patriarchy all the time.
That's amazing.
They're like, is that the patriarchy? I was like, oh, yeah, it's everywhere. It's got its hands in everything.
That's adorable.
But then the other thing that Abel keeps saying is, oh, that looks like Ken. Like if we see any man with any amount of muscle, he's like, there's a Ken.
Oh my God.
Yep. Yeah. They're everywhere. But wait, I want to get back to the thing about, I mean, I love a conversational lack of focus in a podcast. I'm just bringing it back. But I want to talk about how, like, if guides...
I don't think they're wrong. I think it's more like within this exact moment, this is as clear of an answer as possible. And that could change within seconds.
Yeah. The reason I'm bringing this up is not because like I have found them to be wrong. I have certainly had situations where I got correct information translated in a way that I applied it the wrong way, because we're basically going through like 3 entities to get to an answer, right?
Right.
So in a sense, like seeking psychic advice can be very convoluted. It's like, okay, we got this person that can communicate with spirit, and then we've got spirit, maybe 12 of them doing the communicating, and then they're translating messages about a subject that they know nothing about and feeding it back to you, and then you have to then again process it. And so, that's gone wrong for me, which is where I learned like, oh, if you want to talk to mediums, that's like super fun and can be empowering, and don't make choices because of it. Make choices because of your instincts, right?
Yes, 1,000,000%.
So then it's like, okay, so now here we are doing all this work so I can learn to communicate better with my own guides and ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like doing this meditation before we called, partly because I needed an answer and partly because I wanted something to talk about. I'm like, what are we going to talk about? I don't know.
It's usually my question.
Yeah. I'm like, well, I don't know. Usually an hour goes by and there we have it. I wasn't getting anything, like sometimes you just have meditations and they're duds. Do you have that?
I guess I wouldn't call them duds. They're just not wild.
Well, I felt very relaxed after, but I mean, like,
then it wasn't a dud.
No, but in terms of I want to go and get messages, or in terms of like, or rather the meditations that I've done recently where I'm like, oh, I see my guide. He's carrying me swaddled on his back.
Yes.
And I'm a baby. Like, what? Like,
right. I mean,
that's not always going to happen.
They're not always. Well, and I guess that's, this is one of the reasons you have so often been like, you downplay. And it's like.
To you. About
like
you.
Yeah, you say to me I downplay, like
you do,
right, except for the fact that it's downplaying it to you, but it's not downplaying it to me because it's something I'm used to. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but for the sake of the purpose of this podcast, you're not allowed to do it anymore because our audience actually needs you to give graphic descriptions and be in charge of what you're experiencing.
Word.
Think of the psychics, Claire. It's not just me here.
Thinking of them. I love them.
But anyway, so like in one of Ted Andrews' books, he's like, I think it's psychic protection. He's like, you have to challenge them. Like, they're not always right.
Knowing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, what the hell? What's the point then? Is it just for fun?
Maybe. No, it's perspective that I think is probably smarter than our mind. Actually, I know it's smarter than our mind.
It's perfective, you said?
No.
Oh, protective?
No. What did I just say?
What word did you say? It must have been protective.
Perspective.
Oh, perspective.
Yeah, it's perspective. It's perspective of something bigger than what we can see. Like when we're asking questions of like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Is it right?
Yeah.
Is it right? Is it right? We've narrowed our focus into such a little hole of like, I don't know how to get out of this. And it's like, well, lift your head. You're not actually in it. So I feel like our guides are able to sort of lift our heads and be like, check this out. It's not necessarily what you think it is.
Yeah, okay. So that is interesting because I kind of walked away from, and I think sometimes like the ramifications or the repercussions or the reverberations rather of a meditation can unfold after you open your eyes.
Definitely.
Like, I made some tea. And also, I have to admit something. Because every time I go to the grocery store and I buy plantains, I weirdly have the same woman check me out. And I know that she's always going to ask me what I plan on doing with the plantains because she has, like, you know, an affinity for them and she has really strong opinions about how to cook them. And I made the mistake of telling her one time, I actually like to slice them up and microwave them and put salt on them.
Oh my God.
And she was appalled. But here's the thing, psychics. If you slice up a green plantain and you microwave it with salt on it for 4 to 5 minutes, it's kind of a long time. This was like a pandemic thing for me for some reason. It tastes and has the texture of a soft pretzel.
What?
It's true. And then, so this is further blasphemy. I dip it in mustard.
Oh my God. I mean, I get it. You have to be gluten-free. You can't have a pretzel.
But anybody out there that also...
Dude,
well, you know what? If you enjoy life,
gross.
just fucking get a green plantain.
I will. I'm going
Spice
to.
it up.
I'm going to. I'm going to get it today.
It
I'm going to try this shit.
It is good. And the only reason that I even own a microwave
is for
this purpose. I didn't have a microwave.
How did you learn to do this?
I started doing it at Sparrow. I started doing it at work, and I could only eat it as a snack at Sparrow because I didn't have a microwave at home. And then when the pandemic happened, I said, Robert, I think that I'm going to break my microwave ban.
Okay, I have another question. What first made you decide, you know what, I'm going to try this out?
I think I had a green plantain maybe from, like, I went to the co-op or something on the way to work. And maybe I had, like, more respectable intentions for that plantain. And then I must have thought, I'm going to try microwaving it. And ask everyone at work. They got really tired of... I don't do it very much anymore because I can do it at home, but they're like, oh, there's that green plantain in the microwave smell again. But it's good, okay? So after I did the meditation, I microwaved my plantain and I made some matcha. And I was walking up the stairs thinking about how this is going to be a weird recording because they're jackhammering behind my house.
Yeah.
And then I kind of just got, like, you kind of need to wait. Like, I was like doing what you were saying, like that very zoomed in. Okay, I need to decide between this person, this person, this person, or this person to hire. And everyone has X qualities, and these are good, and these are, you know, like there are all these variables. And it's this weird thing where I'm like zoomed in, and I went up there to try to be like, who are we hiring? And I wasn't really getting anything aside from kind of just like feelings. But anyway, so I feel like the ultimate message that I got as like a reverberation of the meditation when I was walking up the stairs was just wait. But that's, you know, I think that's the hardest thing. Like, who wants to wait?
As Tom Petty said, waiting is the hardest part.
Oh, Tom.
I miss him. Maybe we should channel him.
What would he do for us?
Sing to us.
No, but like,
no, I don't need to know anything from Tom.
Yeah. But yeah, that's why the other day I was like, Claire, who am I hiring? And then you basically, but yeah, not really fun because all you ended up doing was like kind of the same thing. You were like, you like psychically picked up on the energy of all the options and that was it.
Yeah. I mean, when it came down to
which is very cool.
it was fun. I was happy.
Like, I'm not.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, right. That was the answer, is like, no one was ding, 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 ding. This is it.
Yeah. And everyone was like,
this is good
here's
about
what
this.
it's like.
This is good about this.
Yeah. So basically just you, without telling me, picking up psychically on the exact same situation that's going on in my head. Great.
Totally.
But yeah.
But I mean, that's actually, I mean, truth be told, there is a lot of that, you know, it's like so much of, you know, like going to a psychic or an intuit or talking to your guides. It's basically just getting validation and permission.
Yeah, it's funny. Wait, did I tell you about when I talked to the first psychic really the only psychic I ever talked to before I started like kidding coaching? 100% the only psychic I ever talked to. I talked to her a few times, but one time I listened back to a really old recording from like 3 years ago, and she told me about this podcast.
That's right.
But so cute.
It wasn't actually like you're going to do a podcast, but it was about speaking.
Yeah, she said you're doing something that puts you on stage.
That's right.
And people are really drawn to it because of your demeanor. And it has something, it's like connected to a website. Like, she had a hard time like trying to figure out what she was trying to say. But she was like, it's not a website, but it's connected to that. And I mean, now listening to it, I'm like, oh, it's this
podcast.
But at the time I was like, what? YouTube? But it's cute.
It is cute.
But yeah, listening back to those are really interesting.
I'm boring today.
I know. What is, I mean, I'm not agreeing that you're boring, but like,
yes, you are, and it's okay.
No, is this like, you're not going to give me anything? I'll talk about something and then you'll just stare at me when I'm done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I've been feeling stressy things. I've been managing businessy shit, and
yeah, you don't like that.
I hate it. I am great at my job. I'm a terrible business owner.
Which is a very common affliction.
I know. I mean, so boss, tell me, how do I fix it?
Right. Well, let's start from the beginning. Okay, so there's this really good book called The E-Myth. Every time I say it, I feel like I'm lisping.
E-Myth?
The E-Myth. I feel like I missed something.
I missed it. I used to have a lisp. I had to go to... And isn't it funny, as a kid, you don't know you have one. And then someone's like, you have to go to speech therapy. And you're like, what's wrong?
You're like, this sucks. Are you serious?
Okay, so the E-Myth. Go back. So E-Myth.
That's cute. I wish I could see little Claire with a lisp.
With a lisp.
So the E-Myth is like a really great starting point if you want to kind of dig into. E-Myth? I'm gonna say it's a business book. It's actually quite old, but the E-Myth represents the entrepreneur's myth. And it talks about what happens very commonly, which is what happens with anyone in my industry that starts a business. And exactly what happened with you is a practitioner often works for someone else, and they get tired of, their bad work dynamic or their boss or having a boss, and they decide that they're going to go off on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're a practitioner who has their own business. But he talks about how really, unless you're doing it right, you've just bought yourself a job.
Totally.
And
One-way ticket to hell.
yeah, and I think like a lot of small businesses go right to hell in the beginning and then they have to find their way, which is exactly what I had to do. Like I operated my business exactly like I wasn't operating my business, which I think might I've kind of heard things from you that kind of indicate you might be kind of in that space where you're like, I'm doing this, but I'm not committed. I'm not committing to being a boss. I'm not committing to being in charge because both of those things are horrifying, honestly.
Yeah.
And very complex. And it's not exactly what all you think about when you start your own thing is freedom, independence, liberation from having a boss. But then it's like, oh, I have a new boss and it's all of this stuff. And your boss becomes like overpowering when you stall and don't take charge. So I ran my business like, I mean, I don't think we did anything outside of doing hair and like balancing a checkbook for years, but it was kind of safe to do that because it was just my partner and I.
Right.
But then we started hiring people and we started like losing money and we were like, wait a minute.
Oh, really?
And then it
That's
actually
crazy.
No, it's not. It's very common.
No, I know.
I mean,
But like thinking about it in that way is,
yeah,
like,
you assume like, oh, another person to generate income. If you don't have your everything fine-tuned, that's often not the case.
Yeah.
So anyway, I dug into that and I'm just like refining and fine-tuning that constantly, but it was a years-long battle. So I do feel like having gone through that, I can provide some support for you.
Yeah, I want all of it.
So are you okay? Are you okay? I mean, we can obviously edit some things that you're not comfortable about, but what we were talking about the other day was that
the biggest problem that I have is I have this big, huge, gorgeous, amazing
vagina
space.
Oh.
Yes, also vagina. And
your space is beautiful.
Yes. And I have other people working in it periodically because I am not going to work in it every single day and I want the space used and I have a lot of bills with the space.
Yeah.
So, and it's like somebody has a health crisis and can no longer work consistently. And so obviously that income isn't there and that's fine because I want them healthy. But then, somebody else has a financially hard time and, is like, I have to take some time off or whatever. And it creates this inconsistency, which then just stresses me out. And so then I start spinning into like, well, I guess I just have to be in the studio a shit ton more, which isn't actually what I want to be doing. So it's like navigating, but then it's like, well, how do I get other people in there? What do I do about it? I don't want to rent it out by the hour.
Yeah. This is like quintessential small business owner stuff. So please read the E-Myth. You will see yourself reflected in it and it'll be really helpful. But so what's happening is that these people aren't your employees. You're trying to rent out your space.
Mm-hmm.
So basically you're not wanting to take the responsibility, understandably, of being a boss. So you're a landlord. But then you also don't want to take the responsibility. This isn't judgmental, by the way. I get it. avoided employing people for 7 years because of the exact same thing. So I'm speaking from a perspective of someone who's been you.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I know how hard it is. So you're not wanting to take the, you don't want to be a landlord. So you don't have any contractual agreements. Thereby, you're screwing yourself.
Yeah.
So no one's obligated to do anything, and it's a tough position to be in. And then you're left with just emotions kind of to dictate how you make your choices. Yeah. So it's like it's just time to create an infrastructure. And if you decide that is, whether you decide that is actually being an employer and hiring people and paying them commission and expecting them to be working, and I'm sure you would be I know you're wincing, but like I'm sure you would be an amazing, equitable,
yes,
kind boss. But I would definitely help you like create operating procedures and practices. But then the only other alternative that I see is that you have a rock solid contract instead, if you just want to be a landlord.
Yeah.
But that's tough too, because if you're renting your place out in your space, there's also like an energetic component that you have to think about. And if you're a landlord, you don't really have any say or control over how people practice, whether they practice ethically or what they do in your space.
Like the way that I've sort of thought about it as like, well, so do you guys rent chairs or you have employees?
Yeah, we have commission-based employees because it's important to us to be able to share our expectations with people. Like there are certain things about etiquette that are really important to us.
Mm-hmm.
And if we were renting chairs, there would be no like legal way to set expectations. And it's not just legal. I think it wouldn't be appropriate.
Right. Yeah.
So what else?
This is the other problem. I have 2 companies just like you. And they take up real different parts of my brain. I mean, similar, but
yeah.
And the wiggling back and forth between the two is not the easiest for me.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. I mean, the Aura camera has its own existence in life and it travels, and I follow it around. Which means and also, then my energy isn't in Chicago at the studio with clients.
Where do you want your energy to be?
Everywhere. Yeah, I know. Which is total bullshit.
And you might not even feel comfortable saying, and that's fine too. But I think like I asked that question to get you to.
I want the studio to be kind of its own entity that I can work out of, but that has its, like, I consider the camera to have its own life. Like, I don't really have to do much of anything. And I get.
Do you know what you're pretty consistently saying right now? You're doing the thing where you're taking yourself out of the driver's seat. Yeah. Sorry that this is therapy, but it's like, I watch my life. I'm an observer in my dreams. The camera's in charge. The studio's in charge.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh.
I don't see the problem.
Yeah, maybe it's not a problem. I'm just pointing it out because you are.
It's only a problem when I don't like what's happening.
Right. But yeah, it's like there might be situations in here where you have to get out of the passenger seat because you're amazing. And I think it's interesting Because when you're working, like when you're exercising your practice, you are like really intimidating and commanding, you know?
Yeah.
And I noticed the first time that I talked to you outside of that context when we were on the phone, I was like nervous to talk to you.
That's so cute.
And we had that phone call. I was like sitting in my car and I was like, oh God, I feel like we need to be recording this.
Yeah, we both thought this should be
Yeah,
recorded.
we both were getting that message. But I thought, oh, I noticed this. It stood out to me that I asked you, I think, a question about yourself, and that whole energy really shifted. Yeah. You were like, ah. And I was like, oh, who's this? And now I know you as both, but it's super interesting. So I don't know. This isn't like a critical evaluation. It's just like,
I don't. Yeah, I don't. No, right.
Maybe it's something to observe.
Super true. When I am in mode of being incredibly present to what's happening and what I'm working on, regardless of what it is, it just happens. It's direct, it flows, and it's on. And then when I'm not in that place where I have to think and consider instead of just being, it gets squirrely. It starts feeling the unknown, which is never that comfortable to me.
Yeah. Well, if we're in this conversation, so I can like give you any amount of support, it's just like, I would say, if you're not ready to be an employer of everyone who works in your studio, step one is get a solid rental contract for every single person that rents from you.
Yeah.
And moving forward, they have to adhere to a contract, and it is a year long.
Yeah.
Or
I think that
5 years, you know.
Yeah. I think
like my leases are
to do it.
5 years long. Like you have to do that because you having conversations where you're like, oh, I guess I'm going to I have to pick up the slack for you. And people not understanding that if they're not paying rent, you're paying it. That's a trip.
That all got taken care of. But yeah. No, right.
Well, we're not talking about anything specifically, but
right. It's like, somebody all of a sudden can't be there and it's like, I now have $600 to cover.
Yeah. And you know what? I think that this conversation, even though it doesn't seem like it has anything to do with getting psychic, is super appropriate for our audience because half of them are healers. And
half of them own their own businesses too, or are trying to.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Everyone that I know that's reached out are all. Which, by the way, thanks for reaching out and telling us how much you love us. We love you.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. I mean,
yeah, it really is.
Never stop.
Yeah, please don't ever stop telling us.
In fact, just reach out right now. No, but I mean, like, half of you are the practitioner that is starting your own, that's changing from that to a business owner, and it is no joke.
No, so it isn't. And when
feel free to ask us hotline questions about that too.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, when I decided to open the studio, I was basically in my last semester of grad school, and I'd already taken the board exam and everything, and I was just like, I'm just opening this. I don't want to work for anyone. I don't want anyone telling me what I have to do. Yeah. So I'm just going to do this. And then it's several years of going, oh my God, 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 oh my God. And, hoping that you can figure it out. And then you figure it out, and then there's more times of, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, how do I figure it out now?
But the interesting thing too is though, like you start a business because you don't want anyone to tell you what to do.
Right.
But before you know it, you have 5 people telling you what to do. Or
that you
whatever.
have to respond to. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, whatever number of people you employ
Mm-hmm.
they take the place of the boss that you once had. You're technically in charge, but you are responsible for their well-being, you know? Like, you are gonna think about them and care about them all the time. So it ceases to be about not having a boss and it becomes something completely different. But if you are willing to grow and evolve in it, it can be beautiful, but it isn't easy.
No, it
But I do
really
think like
isn't.
you might be on that path, whether you know it or not. And I think what happens is you start to realize like, oh, structure, amazing expectation setting, written
Yes.
and like standard operating procedures, like all of that sounds like, ew, I don't want to do that.
But
I don't want to.
it completely links into getting psychic, because it's creating boundaries and it's setting up manifestation and guidelines and how you need things to unroll for a healthier situation in your world.
Right. But here's the thing about like expectations and operating procedures. Like what's the first thing that happens when someone messes up at their job? They feel terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And
That is
you
true.
can actually do an amazing job of preventing that by having just exceedingly clear expectations. And it was super hard for me to step into that role of being like, you know what? I actually care about this in great detail. Like, I care about the nuances of how things are done, and I need to share it. And I think, just being as clear as possible is really beneficial for you and everyone around you.
In every regard.
Yeah. So, I mean, that going back to you being like, oh, I just want, these renters to be like, do their thing and da da da. Like, you start to see what can arise when you don't have like solid boundaries and structure.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the rough things about owning your own businesses, is wanting to be able to rely on people and not have to be a boss. But it's like,
Yeah.
it's the only way that you actually get to rely on them, is by insisting upon a certain amount of reciprocity, like
Accountability.
accountability,
Totally.
which means that it has to be stated insanely clearly.
Yeah. And then that's where it gets back to like your own accountability as like just being like, fuck, okay, I have to be the leader here.
Mm-hmm.
And
God, yeah.
I don't, go ahead.
I think you and I are the same in this. It's like, I don't really want to be. I mean, I don't want anyone to tell me what to do, but I don't necessarily want to have
No.
to. But it's one of those things of like, well, who else is going to do it? It's my company.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do not get turned on by being in charge. Like,
Yeah.
it was not a goal.
No.
So it's just something that I've had to like learn how to do and grow into and just like accept, but it is never going to be like, I'm the boss. Like, ew. I really dislike that.
Mm-hmm.
And just like finding the balance between accepting that and knowing that accepting that will be better for my companies.
Yeah. Right. And that's it. I mean, it's a matter of me just saying, you stepped into your power to do your own self-healing, step into your power so that the space that you do it in is safe and creating as much as it can be.
100%. And it's going to make a huge shift.
Mm-hmm.
Every step you take towards that is going to be like, you're going to be so much happier. Ew, growing is hard.
It's so hard. It is. It is hard.
If you need like a referral for a lawyer to work out those leases,
Ew.
I have
I have to have
what?
a lawyer? I have to have a lawyer?
Yes, Claire, you're not uploading it from the internet. Yes.
Fine.
Okay, this is so funny. I actually knew you were going to do that. You got to put your big boy pants on and do it right.
I get it.
You need a commercial lease lawyer. In fact, anybody, if you're thinking about opening your own studio, starting your own place, commercial leases are not like renting an apartment for a year. You have a huge amount of responsibility. Your landlord isn't really responsible for maintaining anything. They're usually quite a bit longer. You want to make sure that you have options to renew because you're investing a bunch of money in the space. You know, like we started out with like multiple 5-year options. We've been in Sparrow for almost 15 years. But yes, hire a commercial lease lawyer. Get a referral from a friend. You have to make sure that everything is in your best interest because it might say in your lease that your landlord can sell the place out from under you next year and you don't pick up on the legalese and you're signing your business into the hands of a rando.
That blows.
So
yeah,
it's important.
Ugh. Business stuff. It's important when running a business. Yeah,
it is.
mean, it's all been like winging it. And then you start realizing, I need a little bit more structure about this.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I mean, I think I've said here that I spent my previous obsession was business books for the 5 years leading up to this one. So start with the E-Myth and get back to me because I've got more where that came from.
Oh, boy.
Who, not how would be a good one for you.
Oh, I like the name of that.
It's all in the title.
It is.
It's like, how do I do that? And then it's like, well, no, really, it's like, who should do this? Yeah.
I like that one. I like that one.
I took Abel to the doctor today and she was like, is he drinking dairy? Or is he drinking milk? And I was like, ew, maybe I don't have the right doctor. Because
Seriously.
First of all, no, my kids have never had milk.
Good.
Because
disgusting and bad for you.
Well, I mean, I was like, I don't actually think it's necessary. And he's fine. And I was like, yeah, he eats dairy. But I was like, are you really still? I was like, what do you do to vegans?
Oh, make them feel terrible.
Do you just like uniformly tell everyone that their kid needs to be guzzling milk? Like,
which is so bad for you.
Most people are lactose intolerant.
Everyone is lactose intolerant. And let me tell you why. Because this...
You just stopped there.
What?
Because.
Period. Cows have 4 compartments in their stomach so that they can, and they have so many more enzymes than we do, so that they can break down grass. Hardly any other animals can break down grass. This is why dogs eat it, so that they can puke when they don't feel good. So basically what happens when we drink the milk of an animal that has 4 compartments in their stomach is our bodies don't know what to do with so much of it, and it turns into phlegm, and it just gets shoved in places in our body.
Yum.
It's real. And if everyone stopped drinking milk for 6 months and then tried again, you would get ill. It's disgusting. Also, it was a deal breaker of mine for a really long time that if you were a milk drinker, I wouldn't date you.
You're like, smoking's fine. Milk
Yep.
drinking, no thank you.
I'm like, cocaine, no props. Milk?
That's so
bleh.
funny.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had milk in 20 years. But I used to chug that when I was a kid. Ugh.
Yeah,
But my kids have never had it. And it's just because, like, I just didn't have it in my house. And I just said, yeah, right, to the doctors who were like, calcium. I was like, they put calcium in this almond milk too.
Also,
Or, you know.
there's calcium in tons of vegetables.
Yeah, ever heard of it? And my kids eat tons of vegetables. Like, they eat broccoli like crazy. So, suck an egg.
Or some broccoli. But hold on. Back to the reincarnation. Buddhists, the reason that they are vegan or vegetarian is because they believe that all creatures could have been your mom or whatever, you know, like that could have been your mom in a past life. And so you can't kill them. So if the Buddhists believe it,
that animals and humans can incarnate interchangeably.
mm-hmm. I don't
Yeah,
know
I
who's
wanna
telling you they can't.
I don't know. I've definitely heard people say that it's different, but I want to get more intel. Psychics, right in. On that note, I think this is a good place to stop.
Okay, boss.
Okay. Bye, Claire. Love you.
Bye, Suki. Love you.
Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's weird conversation as much as we did. Be sure to subscribe or follow us wherever you get your podcasts. If you liked today's episode, please consider leaving us a review to help others discover our podcast and join our club.